Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Chris coming at you with another episode to the Beautiful Struggle podcast. And this is episode number 106, where we talk about business and personal development, all on the same podcast. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, we drop a new episode every single Monday of the week. So join the family, join the tribe. We got another guest on the podcast. And let me tell you something about this guest. He is a vet when it comes to entrepreneurship. He's been doing this. He ain't new to it. He's true to it. You know what I'm saying? So a little bit about my guest. He's an entrepreneur. He's a speaker. He's an investor. He teaches people and businesses how to build, scale, and flip autonomous businesses. He owns probably over 8 businesses, maybe even more now. He's been in the game for a very long time. He goes by Business Builder Beez on Instagram. How you doing, bro?
Yo, I'm good, bro. Appreciate you having me here, man.
Yes.
It's funny you say that though, but yeah, I do own more than 8 right now.
I'm not keeping track, but last time, I was listening, he was like at 7 or something. I don't know, but we're going to get into it for sure. Thank you for jumping on the podcast. We really appreciate you. You're a busy man. You're giving us a piece of your time. We appreciate it.
For sure. Appreciate being here as well, man.
Absolutely. With that being said, man, where did you get the nickname Beez? Where did that come from, man? Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of digging and I couldn't really find too much. So where did that come from?
Some things is like just like personal type of thing, and then it just becomes professional. Right. To be honest, so my real name is Bijorn, which is a Swedish name. And I'm not Swedish, I'm Jamaican, right? And growing up in Jamaica, people was like, they couldn't pronounce that because it's spelled Bijorn, and the J is kind of like a Y, the way that you say it. So people was like Bijorn, all type of different things. And then people just always, all my life, either call me BJ because the first 2 letters, or B. So then as I got older, actually it was in 2014 when I moved on from B to Beez. And it was because I was in Brazil for the World Cup. And somebody out there that I met, they just kept calling me B the Beez. Because I was like, yeah, my name is B. And they were like, B the Beez. And then that stuck. Absolutely no reason, but it just stuck. Everybody started calling me Beez. And then, just kind of went with the alliteration of Business Builder Beez, which that just came about in the beginning of 2020, to be honest.
Wow.
And, that was just based off of the fact that I was showing people how to build businesses, right? And it sounds simple. You're like, oh, I know how to start a business. Yeah, I mean, I started many businesses years before that. But then, the term serial entrepreneur, like, I was a serial entrepreneur, and nothing wrong with that. You start, it's like, damn, it didn't work, or it worked, but not quite. Then you start again, and nothing wrong with that. That's the typical path of an entrepreneur. But then I kind of developed a methodology that I call the Business Builders methodology, right? And it was based off of my background, my corporate background, which we'll get into that whenever you're ready. But because of that methodology, Business Builders methodology, and then the fact that people was calling me Beez, it just kind of went in Business Builder Beez.
I love it. So, I mean, I would love to jump into your background and your upbringing. You said you were born in Jamaica. Talk to us about that transition. If I'm not mistaken, you moved to New York.
Yep.
But yeah, walk us through all of that, man. I'd love to know, about your upbringing.
Yeah, I was back and forth between New York and Jamaica, right? Between Brooklyn, New York, and Jamaica. And my mom moved when, mom and dad split, and my mom moved when I was real young, but I stayed in Jamaica. And then, I would go to her in the summers, and then eventually I tried 1 year there, which was 3rd grade, I think. And then I came back because I didn't like it. Back then, it wasn't cool to be from the islands, right? Like back then, they would make fun of the accent and all that type of stuff. By the time I moved back completely, which I was like 12, about 12 or so, it was really cool to be from the islands. Like everybody was claiming, like, my uncle's Jamaican and all that type of stuff.
So how was that? I mean, how was that transition like? Not to cut you off,
Yeah.
Going from being raised on an island, going to New York, I mean, that's completely different. How was like your mindset? Like, walk us through that. That's
I
gotta be
mean, I was
crazy.
so young that I don't really think
Okay.
it was that big of a transition for me, because at the same time, Brooklyn, New York is like
Yeah.
Jamaica in the States. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like there was so many Jamaican people there already that it just felt normal and natural and things. I'll say the only thing that always stuck with me that I just didn't like about New York in general is it's dirty.
Mm.
Right. Like, and no offense to my New Yorkers. I'm repping New York all day too, but coming from grass and
Mm-hmm.
beautiful sun and
Palm
everything,
trees.
you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying, to then go to iron jungle and that
Okay.
grind. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but I ain't gonna
Mm.
lie, it really did shape me, and I have to attribute some, or a good portion of where I am now to the fact that I grew up there and got street smarts from being in
Mm.
Brooklyn. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Mm. Absolutely. And so you said your parents separated. Were you in Brooklyn by yourself or with your mom?
With my mom.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, my father stayed in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
I have two brothers and sisters. They stayed in
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica as well, and I was back and forth, but then eventually was living with my mom in Brooklyn.
Got you. And was there like at this time any entrepreneurs in your family or like any remote?
The funny thing is, and people always ask that too, and I would say maybe my father was,
Mm.
but not really. I mean, somewhat. I saw that he had like a side business. I knew nothing about it. And I believe that's one of the most important things. If you're trying to show your kids another way,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to involve them, tell them what's going
Mm.
on, talk about it regularly, right? I
Mm.
got twins that are 7 years old, and one day I was in the room and I walked out the room and they had set up a desk, a little table outside of my room in the hallway with a bunch of their toys on top of it. And they told me they were selling the toys. So
Mm.
I was like, okay. I was like, you selling the toys I bought for you? And then they had a little, one of my daughter has is boy girl twins. So my daughter has a little cash register toy or something
Mm.
that takes a credit card swipe and everything, and it's a fake card, but then it
Mm-hmm.
says please sign here and all of that. So the fact that they always hear me talking about
That's crazy.
selling and business and
Crazy.
that type of stuff, it's just ingrained in them right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you never know, maybe they don't want to be an entrepreneur when they get older, maybe they choose not to, but at least they know the possibilities. At least they know what it's about. They know about business. They know about
Mm.
financial literacy. They know about. I had them doing some skits with me here and there
Mm.
for IG. They did one called the ABCs of financial literacy,
That's
right?
dope.
And they're just involved. So it is, to me, when it comes to generational wealth, everybody thinks about how do I pass my money down, right?
Mm.
How do I gain money and then pass that money down? But that's not generational wealth. That's
Mm.
you creating your riches. Generational wealth starts with you educating the kids, because if you get them money, what are they going to do with it? They don't know what to do with it if they're not educated on what they can do with it and how to protect it and how to grow it.
Mm.
So, that's the first step. And I didn't have that. Now, I just, if I had to say anything, there was an event that happened, and I almost forgot about it until I was interviewed just recently. And there was an event that happened that it was like a traumatic event that happened with me, my mom, some people that broke in the house to held us at gunpoint and all that stuff, and that changed me to say, oh yeah, I need something different. And then I think that was my senior year of high school. It happened right before my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
So my senior year, I went in and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I just need to do something different, and I need to get out of Brooklyn, and I need to, you know what I'm saying? Like, the friends that I had wasn't the ones that I just didn't see it going where I wanted to go, right? And I didn't know where I wanted to go before or at that point, but I just know I wanted more. So I started looking at like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates at the time, only because I had read a book about, it was called The Road Ahead by Bill Gates. And when I read it, I was like, damn, all this technology stuff he talking about and the riches he got. I was like, yo, how do I get these things? You know what I'm saying? So that was my driving factor. I didn't have anybody that was an entrepreneur that was showing me. I just knew I wanted more because of that event that happened. And then I started looking elsewhere since I didn't have those role models close to me.
Mm. No, I love that because it's crazy. When I was about 17 years old, um, I'm not gonna say it was a similar situation, but growing up in Northern California, I knew I wanted more in life. Again, I didn't like you. I didn't know exactly what that looked like,
Mm.
but I wanted more. I wanted to do more. I wanted to be more. And the person that I came across, so you came across Warren Buffett. I came across Eric Thomas, E.T. the hip hop preacher.
Mm.
I came
Mm.
across his videos, and seeing somebody of color talking about wealth, talking about like healthy marriages and whatnot, that was like
Mm-hmm.
that was crazy to me. I was like, this is possible. So
Yeah.
like, I'm sure for you, that was kind of the start, the turning point to you educating yourself and you pushing yourself to that direction of entrepreneurship and maybe doing more for yourself, right?
Yep. 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 100%. And it's good that you were able to see somebody that looks like you,
Mm.
talking about those things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
For me, I ain't had that.
Right,
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
And last year I did this charity event. I'm actually planning for it right now. Actually, it's this week again.
Mm.
So it's an annual thing now. It's called November to Remember. And me and maybe like 6, 7 other entrepreneur friends, we went into a super Walmart in South
Mm.
Florida, and we bought out everything, bought out all the toys, everything that could be a gift. And then we loaded it up on 18 wheelers and drove it over to this charity called Kids in Distress. Now, when we were doing it, one of the companies I got is called Dominicus Motors, and I rent like exotic cars and stuff out. And I was driving I was driving my staple car that everybody always sees me in, is the McLaren.
Mm.
And one of my friends was like, I love what y'all did, but I don't know if you should have did it in the McLaren and this and that. That's kind of, that's not a good look because y'all trying to do charity, blah, blah. I was like, no, that's exactly the look I want. You know why? Because those kids was able to then see me coming up and driving in the exotic car of their dreams, and then bringing tons of toys. And then they're like, oh, wow, what do? You know what I'm saying? So they saw someone that looked like them that was able to have a good life and then giving back to others and whatnot. And now they want to know more about what's this entrepreneur thing you're talking about. Right. You know what I mean? So it's important to see people that look like you, especially. And, I was fortunate to still be able to progress, even though I didn't see it at the time, but, it would have been a lot better if I did see that at the time.
Absolutely. So at the time, you learn about Warren Buffett and whatnot. You're a senior, you want more, you want to maybe get out of Brooklyn and whatnot. What was the next step for you? Like, what was like maybe the first, did you try business right there, or did you try to go a higher education? What was it?
So I was always an entrepreneur at heart, man. Like I remember I was always a relationship builder too, right? Whether I was hustling on the street or whatever else, I was always building relationships. And that's one of my central tenets right now. I tell people that keys to my success is networking, right?
We're going to get into those. We're going to get into those 4 soon too.
Okay, for sure.
We're going to get into it.
And so I remember there was a store called a Nasher across from the middle school that I was going to. And I used to, because I was building those relationships, and they hated us because all the kids would come in there and everybody trying to pocket like 5-cent gum or something. But I was just making relationships with them, and then they gave me a bunch of candy at like a discount price, so I was able to like sell that. I remember I sold the blow pops for like 50 cents, even though it was 15 cents that I got it for, or something like that. So it just kept going like that. So now I was like, okay, well, what am I gonna do now after after senior year? Because I didn't know. All I knew was what was in my community, and I'm coming from a Caribbean community. All that they were saying is, hey, you gotta go to college. That's the only way to make it in this world, is if you go to college, because we didn't get to go to college, so you got to do it. I'm like, okay. So I went to college. I applied. The irony is all that bullshitting, sorry, excuse my language, but all the BS that I did those first 3 years, I was always kind of a good student in terms of like a test taker. I would never be in class half the time, but when I would show up to take the test, I'd do decent. So when I started applying for colleges, I actually got into a bunch. I had like the first time I took the SAT was my senior year, and I got my first time was like a 1280. And if I
wow.
remember correctly, that was okay. That was pretty good. And then I ended up applying to different colleges, got into some really good ones. I ended up choosing one in Orlando called UCF, University of Central Florida. I went there, had a blast, loved it, but came out thinking I was going to be rich now because everybody told me that's the way to make money is I go to college. Yeah, that didn't work.
Right.
So, I had my corporate career. I started out in IT, then got to project management, IT project management, then got to IT strategy management. Then I became a consultant. So my main corporate career was around being an IT strategy management consultant. I used to work at Accenture, one of the top global consulting firms in the world. My last job, when I left my corporate career, I was working at Microsoft. I had a great ladder. Like I was climbing that ladder. I was doing really good. I was getting close to the C-suite executives level, which is, I'm getting a couple $100,000 a year. I thought everything was great. But I still was yearning for more. You know what I'm saying? Not more money, but this is when I realized what I was really yearning for. And it was more freedom, more time. You know what I'm saying? So I had gotten some degree of financial wealth, but I had no time wealth, right? I had to beg for time off. And I had my first kid at that time too. Actually, I had 2 kids at that time. I got 4 in total. And at that time, I remember asking for time off because my son's basketball game, I think it was. And they were like, nah, you can't. And I was like, what? And that's when I realized, nah, this ain't gonna work. This ain't work. And I was always trying to be an entrepreneur while working my 9-to-5 career, because then I had kids, my first kid kind of early. And I was like, damn, I got to keep that security of the 9-to-5, not realizing that wasn't real security. You know what I'm saying? So, eventually I just went all in. This was about 5 years ago in 2016. And the rest is history. Everything's just been amazing since then.
The rest is history, huh? It's crazy because I do have this conversation a lot with people. I always ask people, or always talk to people when I say, hey, look, I think one of the most important things we can do is ask yourself, what does success really mean to us? Because is it the money, or is it like really the freedom that you want? What are you exactly chasing? And I think a lot of things will be a lot more clear, and you'll have a lot more clarity if you understand what success means to you. Because I agree with you. Success to me is freedom and having my time and hanging out with my wife and whatnot, that and my family. But to other people, that may not be success. And I think more people need to identify what that looks like to them. And often we look to social media and we look at what success is, the fancy cars, the money, and all this craziness and whatnot. But that may not be the thing that makes you happy.
Yep, for real. Dave Chappelle had I forget what it was, one of his stand-ups when he was talking about dude who was like rich and amazing, everything. He had a great life, but he still killed himself, right? And it just goes to show that it ain't just about that. It's like you have to, there's tons of people who's just chilling on the streets and they happy with themselves. You know what I mean? So, but they're honest with themselves. And once you're honest with yourself, then you good to go,
So you want to go all in on entrepreneurship. What was the first business? Oh, you said you had other businesses before, but what was the first thing that like really took you over the top and you're like, okay, I can do this and I can help other people do this as well?
I don't even know which one to start with.
Or was it all at the same time?
So there was a lot that were decent and, started to rise, but then didn't go really well. Nothing went as great as I wanted until I went all in, right? Because having that half foot out the door stuff, I couldn't give all my time to a business, right? And it wasn't until I had realized that earlier, but I was still scared to leave the security of my 9-to-5, right?
Absolutely.
But once I did, I started out in e-commerce, right? And I was just talking to somebody a little while ago about this, how when I started making money in e-commerce, I was doing Amazon FBA, right? Private labeling. Once I was making like 10 to 20K a month, I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm happy now. I've achieved it. You know what I'm saying? Because I was making I was making at Microsoft, I was making 150 plus bonus, sometimes about 200, right?
Mm.
And so I was like, okay, as long as I can make that, then I'm fine. And then I made it, and I was literally fine. I had no aspirations of trying to make $1 million or nothing like that. I literally kind of fell into it, like as it was growing, because I could have made certain decisions that would have gotten me there sooner had that been my intention, my desire, right? But I was like, okay, I made it to where I want to. I'm good. I'm just gonna relax now. I got time now. I could do what I want, and I'm making all the money that I was making in my regular 9 to 5. So I was good. So then I started saying, okay, once I hit $1 million with Amazon, I was like, hold up, this is interesting. Like I'm a millionaire. And I was like, nah, I'm not a millionaire yet. I just did $1 million in revenue. That's not a millionaire. I don't have $1 million in the bank. So I was like, okay, let me just keep it going. And then I was like, let me see if I could get $1 million in the bank. Then I started getting that money. And then I was like, damn, I got money, but I don't have no assets. You know what I'm saying? So then I started looking at what to do with that. And then I started other businesses. And, I wasn't trying to really teach anybody, because when I would share information with people, not everybody seemed interested. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I realized that maybe I had the wrong people around me, and that shouldn't stop me from trying to help people. So I kind of retreated to myself at first, because nobody seemed interested. So I was like, fine, I'll just keep making money, doing my thing. Started multiple businesses. Things kept happening. I was using the things in my corporate career to impact my entrepreneurial life. Right. That's why when I teach people now, I'm like, listen, I know that there's lots of mentors out there that you go to, and they're like, hey, I struggled, I found something, now I'm going to teach somebody.
Yeah.
I did that too, but I also am trained in the things that I'm teaching. That's what I went to school for. That's what I did as in my 9 to 5. That's what Fortune 500 companies brought me in to do, is to re-engineer process, to make the business more efficient, to scale with process systems and people, to make the business autonomous, all of those things. I was like, all right, I'll just do that in different businesses, but for my own stuff. So once I saw that was really taking place, and now I could take almost any business I start and make it cash flow within 30 to 60 days max, and potentially make it profitable right away or 90 days. I was like, oh shit, this is I'm not saying easy, but it's repeatable. So I was like, let me start teaching people. And I don't know which one of them made me say, okay, now I could teach people, because it wasn't the single business. It was the collective of them working on their own, and me having my time, yet still running. At the time, it was like 7 businesses, and things were okay. So that's what kind of led me into, teaching people overall. It was that I saw the process was repeatable.
So that's interesting. That's absolutely amazing. I'm curious, when you jumped into e-commerce, what made you choose Amazon FBA over drop shipping or creating your own brand and whatnot? What made you go that route?
So remember, you are creating your own brand when you private labeling, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So I started with wholesaling first. And it was cool, got a sale or two here and there. And once you get those 1 or 2 sales, they're huge, but it takes a whole lot of work of selling, right? Yeah. And I'm not the biggest fan of selling like a car salesman selling, like always pushing people. I like to sell from value. If I got something that's valuable, I'm assuming it will lead to sales, while others may push sell, even if it's not value. I'm gonna convince you to buy it anyway, right? So with after wholesaling, I got into private labeling and drop shipping at the same time. All right. Drop shipping was good. I made some really good money drop shipping, but I realized it was unstable. It fluctuated a lot. And while people say, hey, but it's the best thing to start in because it doesn't require you buying any inventory, but that's true, but it requires you to spend on marketing. Probably just the same amount you would have spent on inventory, if not more, right? And the reason why is because when somebody goes to Amazon, they're going to buy something, right? You just want to make sure that you rank for the keywords that they're most likely going to be searching for. So when you're drop shipping, nobody knows you. They don't know your site. You have to spend way more money trying to get people to come to your site to then convince them. Exactly. Right. So for me, it was like, I can reduce my risk more if I go through Amazon FBA. Why? Because I can look at the data and see what's selling good, what's trending up. I could look at the data and see what's the average sales per day and the cost of goods sold. I can look at all of this data and plan this out before I even go into it. Sure, there's going to be surprises here and there, but now I have a very clear idea of what my revenue is going to look like, right? And I could reduce the risk even more with certain techniques that, I started implementing on Amazon at the time. You never reduce it to zero, but why not get into something that I could control the risk a little bit and make money, and it's better long-term? Because if you're doing a drop shipping, what ends up happening is once you're doing drop shipping and you find a good product that is regularly selling, you're going to naturally then say, hey, let me order more in bulk so that I can put my own brand name on it, and so that I could give shorter shipping times to the customers. So you go right into private labeling anyway. Right. So I was like, that's where I need to be. It's more long-term, it's more sustainable, more profitable for sure. Cause I wasn't getting the 7 figures in drop shipping. So wow. This worked out.
That's crazy. So, I mean, you've started so many different businesses in your life, and you've gained so much different, experience and knowledge and whatnot. And I'm curious, from all the businesses that didn't work out, what was like that reoccurring lesson or that thing that you had to get over to make it a successful business?
I had 2 main things. One was financing, right? When I first started out, some of the people that I was networking with, they were like, I was like, yo, how you getting all of this, money for the inventory, man? Like, it's just so much, you got to keep buying inventory. They were like, oh, just get a Chase Sapphire, whatever card, blah, blah, blah. I was like, you say that like it's just so simple, right? But it is simple. To me, it wasn't at the time. I was just like, yo, you just saying just go get credit. I don't just got good credit. I was taught to avoid credit because of college. I mean, because of being in Caribbean, we were taught debt is bad, credit is bad, all of that. So again, I had to break those misconceptions that, that I grew up in my community with and whatnot. And getting over the financing by utilizing OPM, other people's money, utilizing business credit. That was one of the first things that I had to figure out. To be honest, no, that was probably the second thing. The first thing was partnerships, right? I learned very quickly that I'm not saying it's impossible to have a partnership, and especially in real estate partnerships work. But in business, I was like, nah, no more partners. I will hire the person that I want instead of partnering with the person I want, right? And I think the statistic is something like 70% of failed first-time businesses is due to partnerships, like falling out with the partner or disagreements with the partner or whatever. And I can 100% say that I'm one of that statistic, because it was literally almost every business that failed was because of some issue with partners. So those were my 2 main things that I had to overcome. I hate trying to simplify it to make it sound like it's that simple, but it really is, because the rest was just, I had some training, I had experience in the industry and running businesses. And honestly, it's all about process, systems, and people, and how to make it autonomous. So yeah, it all worked out good after that.
So when you say partnerships, are you saying like, hey, it was just too much ego that was going on, or they didn't have the same work ethic as me? Or was it a combination of
all? A combination of all. I had, as you were saying it, I was like, oh yeah, there's one. Then you said something else. Like, oh yeah, I had one for that. Like, every single thing that you could say of what could have went wrong with a partnership, I've had it happen at one point or another. I had this one guy that one of the companies I started back in 2007. I don't know how I should even hesitate. I remember that year clearly because of what happened. In 2007, I started the social network. This was before Facebook announced that they were going to go, not public like IPO public, but public from, it used to only be for colleges, You had to have an
Gotcha.
EDU
Yep.
email. So then now they said they're going to go for the world, right? And I had started a social network called Spot Check. And with Spot Check, I was going through VC funding and everything. And
Wow.
well, I won't even get into that part in a second. But the point is, the partnership was with a developer, and he developed the whole thing. I didn't. I'm not a developer. I couldn't do it myself. But he had no business acumen, no business knowledge. He had no way to monetize it, whatever. And I was doing all of that. Think of Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs, right? Yes, Steve Jobs is the one that's most known, but Steve Wozniak's the one that created it, right? Well, this developer felt that he should be most known and the one that created it, even though he didn't know how to become most known, right? He didn't know how to put the business out there. So that was one problem where it didn't work out. We had equal say in the business, equal share in the business. But when it comes to operations, I had a slightly higher vote, and he ain't like that. So that led to a fallout. I mean, I have so many. There's so many stories, man. It's just it's always something when you're dealing with someone. If you're the majority partner and you give someone that's like a minority partnership, that may not be as bad. But I used to go into it thinking, okay, we got to be equal partners and everything, or else the person's not going to want to do it with me.
So I'm curious. I mean, as a successful entrepreneur that's been around for a while, as a leader, have you ever had to deal with ego yourself, or trying to control that, or are you more of like a humble type of dude?
A deal with ego? No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, nah. Because
what about people in your team, or you're on your team that maybe you're like, okay, I'm learning a lot from Beez. I can do what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? I don't need him. How do you deal with that? Maybe is a better question.
I actually encourage it, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just an hour before coming on this, I was doing an interview with the new operations manager, and I told her how the person that was in the role prior, I helped them to start their own business. And I was like, it's my employee, but I teach everybody in all of my companies different financial literacy tactics, different entrepreneurial tactics, right? Why? Because I believe that shit. So why wouldn't I preach it to someone else? And it's kind of weird for me to be like, yeah, you shouldn't work for nobody. You should have you don't get no time freedom if you're working for someone. Hey, do you want to work for me? You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
So I actually encourage people to do those things. Not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur. I understand that. I think anybody can do it, but not everybody is able to or willing to, right? So I encourage people to do those things. They tend to be more loyal to me by me encouraging them to do that. And then I just keep growing from there. Plus the fact, what do? Process systems and people, right? So yeah, I have an amazing person that's working for me. And damn, if they leave, that's a blow because they were an amazing person. Yeah, but it's all documented in the process, so somebody else could come in and know exactly what needs to be done, right away anyway.
That's interesting. That's super interesting. How do you keep yourself from getting satisfied and comfortable as an entrepreneur? I'm pretty sure right now, I'm not counting your pockets, but I'm pretty sure right now, if you want it, you can just say, hey, I'm done with all this. I'm just going to go enjoy my kids or something like that. How do you keep yourself from getting to that point? Something I spoke about a couple of weeks ago is, some of the great people like MJ, Kobe, these guys just like never got satisfied. One championship wasn't enough, two wasn't enough, three wasn't enough. They just kept going. And what's that thing for yourself that just keeps you going, that you just want more?
Wow. So first thing I'm going to say is that there's periods that you reach and I had a term that I use for it because I had this conversation recently. There's periods that you reach, and I can't remember the term I was using. It's call it complacency periods, right? So when you're working your 9 to 5 and you hit 6 figures, it's like, oh man, this is awesome. Finally made it 6 figures and I'm cool. I'm just gonna chill, right? Then when it was like, wow, now I'm making, good 6 figures. I was like 150 to 200 plus all types of benefits at Microsoft. I was like, okay, I'm good. And I was kind of complacent again. Then when I replaced that with, my entrepreneur income, I was complacent again. I wasn't striving for $1 million. But then I fell into a million. I was like, damn, I need to, figure out how to continue to grow it. So it's like you have to keep breaking these complacency cycles, right? Now, in terms of how do I decide when enough is enough for me now? Like actively decide. It depends on what's my goal. Is my goal, I mean, yeah, some people would be like, yo, you made way more money than I probably will anytime soon or whatever. Okay, but that's not my goal, right? Now, here's the thing. I have some assets that are producing income, right? But I always worry, like, what happens if my business fails tomorrow? One of my companies, perfect example, one of my companies is called Seller Kai. It's a supply chain management company helping e-commerce sellers. We have offices in China, 2 offices and 3 warehouses in China, helping people that are in e-commerce to do everything on the supply chain side, right? 8 figures last year. Barely just crossed 7 figures this year, right? And most people would be like, well, still 7 figures. Yeah, but look at how easy something could crash. Why? Because right now is a global supply chain crisis that's going on, right? You hear people say things like, if you're trying to order or buy gifts for Christmas, you may not get any anymore because things are, not going to be available, shortages, all this type of stuff.
I'm saying, my wife and I, we waiting on the couch for like 2 months now.
Exactly, bro. But that's my business. And my business has suffered significantly because of that, right? So I haven't reached the point that I could just be like, oh, okay, let me just sit back and chill and I'm good for the rest of my life. Because $1 million ain't nothing. $1 million go easily, right? So the businesses I have, they producing revenue and stuff and, profit and all of that. But look at the crises that we're going in right now. I got the exotic car business, Dominicus Motors. And while most people will be like, oh, wow, you're making a lot of money. We averaged over 300K a month from the beginning of this year, going through the year. Then July, August, September dropped down to less than 30K. Now, some people will still say, oh, but still you're making 30K a month. Yeah, but I still got how much in car notes that I got to pay, right? For exotic cars and whatnot. And why did it drop like that? Well, rainy season was my first rainy season in South Florida, which is terrible. So who wants to rent a Lamborghini when they could skid out in the rain and they can't show it off to nobody? They can't have the top down, right? Plus the Delta variant of COVID was spiking in South Florida at that time. So it went from a profitable business to completely, under the radar, completely underwater for a few months. And not everybody can weather the storm. You know what I'm saying? So for me, even though I got some businesses that are rolling, and recently I've been teaching people how to flip businesses, how to buy, fix up and sell. That's become more of my end goal right now is how can I buy a extremely large business, like $1 billion business or something. So I still got goals.
Yeah, that's interesting that you said that because, what's the guy's name? Ty Lopez. That's what he was getting into recently.
Yes.
Buying Pier 1, fixing it up and then making it like an e-commerce type of thing, right? That's super dope. Man, you got 4 principles of success. You mentioned one of them, maybe a couple of them actually. Let the audience know what those 4 key principles of success are. It's something that I actually never really heard before. You hear like the same stuff all the time, but I like yours because they're really unique.
Thank you. It's funny because since I've been saying it, a couple of my entrepreneur friends have been repeating it. I'm like, that sounds like my
right. You got as long as you give credit, it's all good.
You know what I'm saying? but it's all good because the funny thing about it is before when I used to say it, people, I don't know, I think people thought it was fluff, right? They're like, no, but tell me the real secrets. I'm like, listen, there's no secrets. I'm telling you everything that I do. Process, systems, and people. That's how I structure any business. Certain businesses that I get into, right? And I've been able to vet them. That's the secret sauce. The only other secret that I have to my success that is consistent across all businesses is 1, networking, right? I took Seller Kai, my first, second, second business as after being a full-time entrepreneur, to 7 figures without running one ad from networking. I was in a group. I was networking with people. I asked them what they needed. We were all e-commerce sellers. I found the problems. I solved the problems. I offered it as a service. People already knew, like, and trust me because I was already networking. Networking is not just about who you know, it's who knows you, right? So you got to speak up. You got to get out there, right? So that was the first thing. The second thing is you got to leave some people behind, right? And this equates to when people say surround yourself with 6 millionaires, you be the 7th, that type of stuff, right? It's just that you got to leave some people behind. I had to learn that the hard way. That, you know, remember when I said I was trying to teach people and nobody wanted to listen? So I had the wrong people around me. You know what I'm saying? And when we start off as an entrepreneur, the first people that's going to doubt you is your friends and your family, right? Until some strangers validate you, then your friends and family are going to come like, oh, well, you know, can you lend me some money or something, you know? So I had to leave some people behind. I still love them. They still good friends, good family, whatever, but they weren't on the same journey. So I left them behind. The third principle of success is you got to buy seats at tables. This is one of the biggest things that I saw from people that, like, I remember, matter of fact, what I tell you, I made my first $1 million in e-commerce, right? Well, I can 100% attribute that. I know that would not have happened in that same time frame if I didn't buy a course, a specific course that I bought into at the time, right? And remember, I just said my second business got brought to 7 figures without running ads. That was because I was in that community of the course that I bought. So we were in a Facebook group with like 3,000 people in there, right? Wow. So when I was buying that course, it was only $1,000, and everybody, my brother, my cousins, was like, "Don't be spending that money on that. Oh, I don't know about that. It might be a scam. Oh, blah, 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 blah." All of this stuff. That led to me making millions of dollars over the last 5 years. You know what I'm saying? That single moment led to so much other things. So you have to buy seats at tables. You have to, and that's one way, by buying into courses, right? You could buy a seat at a table by, instead of going to LA Fitness for $30, go spend $200 at the boutique gym where other people are spending $200 too. So maybe there are people you want to talk to. You know what I'm saying? So you bought a seat at a table that you can get next to these people, but what you got to do while you at that table? Network. Leave the toxic people out of there, right? So now you're buying seats at tables. One other example of that is I used to go to like conferences, and like the 10X conference with Grant Cardone, and my boy would be like, "Yo, the tickets are just $250." I was like, "Okay, cool. I think I'm gonna buy the $10,000 ticket." Mind you, at the time, I ain't even had the $10,000 to be spending like that. But I was like, "Yo, I want the $10,000 ticket. I'm gonna get next to other people who spend $10,000, and I'm gonna make sure I take advantage of me being there. I'm gonna talk to them. I'm gonna, ask questions. I'm gonna create partnerships, right?" And then the fourth principle of success, while you networking with people, while you buying seats at tables, while you leaving some people behind, is that you got to build your own table, right? So now most people get into a mentorship or a course, and then they just focus on, I just need to talk to Beez. I just need to talk to the mentor himself. He's the only one that can help me. Nah, I got into mentorships and I barely talked to the mentor. You know what I'm saying? The mentor put all of his information and knowledge into the course. I just go there to get that. I still network with them if I can, but if not, I was more focused on the other people in the mentorship, right? Let me network with them. Who else is on their path rising? Who can I build with at the same time, right? So those 4 principles of success, I added 2 things to it. The foundation is financial literacy, right? Because I told you, how was I able to fund these businesses? That became key. And the roof is always seeking knowledge. So when you ask, how do I know when is enough? It's never enough, because I always want to learn new things. I always want to do new things, you know what I mean? And now I've gotten more into philanthropy. So I'm even less focused on, hey, I just got to make a sale. I'm more focused on giving back more than anything
Yeah.
now, but I still haven't achieved my full goals yet.
Powerful, powerful stuff right there. We're coming to the end of this. I got a couple more questions. With you doing so much, you're a father, you own multiple businesses, you're a leader. What are some ways you take care of your mental health as an entrepreneur? You do so much. I'm wondering, do you take some time for yourself? What do you do to keep yourself, level headed and sane?
Yeah, you got to know your limits, right? And
Mm.
I do take breaks when necessary. December, I told all my students, I told all my staff, don't look for me in December.
Mm.
I'm taking a break. But ironically, I'm not even taking that much of a break because there's a new program that I'm refining and I need to kind of prep during that time, but at least I won't have distractions from other things. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's not really a break per se, but it still is a break. I'm not
Right.
doing a lot of the other things that I would typically do. I try to schedule in things too. I'm not perfect with it though. I still mess up sometimes here and there, but like this weekend, I was with the kids for like some birthday parties they were going to and stuff. So I turned off the phone pretty much all weekend,
Mm.
right? Like I don't
Love
want no
that.
notifications. I don't want no nothing, right? Because if if I had to say, when I talk about getting my freedom and having that time, wealth, and everything, the one boss that I do have is my phone,
Mm.
because as soon as that notification pops up, I'm like, oh, okay, gotta go
Man,
do that. So
man,
I'm
let me
like,
tell
nah.
you.
I'm like, forget that. Let me fire that boss for a little bit. Just completely turn off notifications and get a little bit of freedom here and there. I must say also that I haven't been as good this year with it, but one thing that was extremely important to me is hitting the gym,
Mm.
working out regularly, trying to take care of my health. There's one of
Important.
my favorite sayings is, we often spend our, we often give up our health to attain our wealth, and then we end up spending our wealth to get back our health.
Yeah,
Something like
makes sense. Yeah,
that.
for sure. That's
So,
crazy.
mhm.
Absolutely. That's crazy that you brought up the phone situation, because I was just in the gym the other day and I'm working out. I'm going to have a good workout and my phone going off. I got to, jump on this call. Next thing you know, it's like an hour later. I've been on 4 different calls. I go back home and my wife is like, "How was your workout?" I was like, "It was terrible." And she's like, "Yo, you got to get that in check. You can't be doing that." But
Yeah,
man, I love that. I love that firing your boss, taking your time, taking some time for yourself, turning off your phone and whatnot. That's super key. Like I said, we can start wrapping this thing up. I know you got a charity event coming up. I don't think this thing will be out by time the event happens, but I would love for you to dive into it,
yeah.
and talk more about it. And then, maybe next year, if people can support, they can definitely do that for you.
Awesome. Yeah, and I appreciate all the support from any and
Mm.
everybody.
Mm-hmm.
This happened last year. We call it November to Remember. I was just looking back at the calendar or some emails, and I think we did it on like right around the end of November, but literally it was a week and a half to maybe 2
Mm-hmm.
before the event that we came up with the idea. It was like, yo, we need to do something. I just want to
Right,
help
right,
people.
right.
And then we just ran with it, right? Sometimes you got to execute quickly. So this year, we had a little bit more time to prep. And the purpose of it is that as entrepreneurs, we do well for ourselves. So we wanted to give back. So we were calling it the Entrepreneur Give Back. And November to Remember was just, hey, this is what we're doing for kids. And what we did last year is we bought out an entire super Walmart, went in, bought everything that could be a toy, a gift, not just a toy, but everything that could be a gift, and then loaded it up on 18-wheeler trucks and drove over to this charity that's one of my favorite charities called Kids in Distress, KID.
Mm.
And they help like kids that are displaced, have no families, they're in foster care, all that type of stuff. And we were able to put smiles on all these kids' faces during the holiday season. So it was an amazing thing. And especially that it was only like 6 of us maybe that did this last year. This year, I got the city coming out, the police
Wow,
know about it. I've been talking
that's
to
dope.
commissioners, the mayor, um, you know, all types of people. So I'm trying to make it not just about South Florida and helping kids, but I want to make sure that people hear about this throughout the country, because last year it inspired other groups to do something similar. So, you know, it's all about giving back, and it's all about inspiring others as much as you can, for sure.
That's a blessing right there. Man, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. I really appreciate you giving us a piece of your time. You know, before I let my guests go, I always have my guests leave one last gem for the audience, one last piece of advice. It can be anything, it can be business related, life related, whatever you want, and we'll end it on that note.
All right. So, you know what I'm going to say is that when people hear some of the things that I've done, they're like, what? Like, how you even do that? Like, when they hear I got a company that's, you know, we have offices in China and stuff, they're like, that's not possible for me to do it, right? And I tell people, I'm like, yo, everything is possible to do. You just don't have, if you don't have somebody that shows you that it's possible, then you'll continue to think it's impossible, right? So I challenge everybody, don't think that these things are impossible. Think about how you could start a business in a different country. Think about what that would look like. Think about, let me tell you something that my students are doing right now. It's called mergers and acquisitions. That's what the real name is. But what I call it is flipping businesses, right? I've been showing people how to find businesses that are distressed, how to fix it up, right? How to structure it, process systems and people again, and then how to sell it, to flip it, just like how you would flip a home, right? And most people is like, oh, but I can't do that. That's going to cost a lot of money. I don't got no money to buy a business. You wouldn't believe that you could actually do this with no money out of pocket. It's all about how you structure the deal, right? So that looked impossible to me until I sought the information, and then realized that there's ways to do it. That's why those 4 pillars plus the foundation and the roof really come into play. Always seeking new knowledge, right? And because of that, getting into rooms where I found out that this can be done, and networking while I'm in those rooms, all of those things came together to say, yo, the things that I thought were impossible for me to do, they're 100% possible. So I challenge everybody to, you know, make something happen, dream big and execute on it. And don't be afraid to invest in yourself, right? You may be afraid to spend money on certain things, but you're not going to make money if you don't spend some money. And initially, you got to spend that money on learning, on increasing your knowledge. So I'll see y'all on the other side for sure. And I'm here to help anybody who need it.
I love it. I love it. Where can people find you? Where can people reach out to you? I'll leave everything in the link of this. I'll leave everything in the description of this podcast.
All right, awesome. Yeah. So main place that I operate is on Instagram. You can find me everywhere. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. But main place I operate is Instagram, and it's Business Builder Beez, and Beez is with a Z. Right. So Business Builder Beez on Instagram, Business Builder Beez on Facebook. Like I said, my full name is Bijorn Hendricks. So you look on LinkedIn, you can find me there, but I respond to people on Instagram for sure.
No, he definitely responds. Once again, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you. And on that note, it's your boy, Chris. I'll catch you guys next week. Peace.
Appreciate it.